In this segment, I'm going to tell you all about the course logistics. So you're going to walk out knowing what to expect in Code in Place. And to start out, I want to tell you a story. So gather around and let me tell you about the origin of where Code in Place came from. Code in Place really started at that moment when we all had to go into lockdown. As you may recall, about 3 years ago, people around the world were given the notice that they had to stay at home for 2 weeks in an attempt to curb the spread of COVID-19. And it was a really hard time. It was a hard time lots of different ways. It was scary because we could get diseases. People were lonely because all of a sudden they couldn't see their friends and family. And it was very disruptive for education. Billions of people immediately had to switch from normal education to online learning. And this was difficult on teachers and students around the world. At this moment, Mara and I were just gearing up to teach CS 106A, which is Stanford's flagship Intro to Computer Science course. And we too had to make our course go online. While we were putting our course online, we were thinking, well, what can we do for all these people that are having a hard time during COVID? We're not doctors. We can't help in that way. We thought maybe we could take our course and give it away for free. And this seemed like a very bold and interesting thing to do. But while we were talking about it, we thought, well, we could just put the materials online, but there's a lot of materials out there. We thought, what if we did something a little bit more? What if we thought, what's the most special thing about this flagship course at Stanford, and can we bring that to the world? The most special secret sauce of Stanford's Intro to Computer Science course is this thing called section leaders. At Stanford, when you're learning, you go to lectures with Mara and myself, but you also meet once a week in a group of 10 people led by a section leader. And we're wondering, well, is there a way that we could bring this wonderful idea online with us as we're gearing to give away this free course? And so that was what we did. We didn't know what to call it at first. My wife originally suggested, people have to do this thing called sheltering in place. Could you call it shelter in code? And then we were talking about this with Maron. He said, what if it became Code in Place? And that's how we ended up with the name. So Code in Place, we've hosted it both in 2020 and in 2021. And we have now taught 24,000 students. And one of the most special things is these 24,000 students weren't just taught by Maron and myself. We had help from over 2,400 people who volunteered to give their time to lead a small group of 10 people through the first half of Stanford's flagship CS 106A course, all done as community service. So it started in the pandemic, it ran 2 times, and it continues. And it was just fantastic. It continues to be fantastic. People came from all over the world, over 150 countries, all genders, all ages, and people were just so wonderful and uplifting to each other. It really the shared experience of we're going to learn a hard thing like programming together with a community of learners around the world, surrounded by thousands of teachers. It just was one of the most wonderful vibes I've ever seen in a learning experience. And it was so great that even though the pandemic's over, Mara and I got so much out of doing it that we thought, well, can we do it again? And so this brings us to the first post-pandemic Code in Place. We decided to keep the name because of all the wonderful memories of people coming together during the pandemic to do something for one another that really we think is the quintessential element of what makes this class so special. This class is just for fun. And particularly, we're not going to be giving you a grade. Really, the most important thing from a programming class is not an A, B, or C. The most important thing is that you have this incredibly transformative skill, the ability to program. So we get to focus on that skill. We get to focus on the joy, that really pure joy that comes from learning to do something new. So that is the focus of Code in Place. Another important thing to know about Code in Place is that this is a community of volunteers. Mara and I don't get paid any extra for doing this. In fact, we just do it because we love teaching so much. So we're volunteering, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. All of the core staff, the section leaders, these are people coming from industry. Some of them are CEOs even. Some people are professional teachers, and they're volunteering their time to help you learn. You're getting a wonderful class for free, but really that is because so many people are dedicating their time. And that's just a beautiful thing to reflect upon. It also, of course, means that we should give appreciation to our wonderful section leaders and our wonderful core staff whenever we can. Now, This is a really special class. It's large and it's at its best when we help each other. Our goal, Mara and I, is we want every single one of you guys to succeed. And you're going to succeed best if you're part of helping your fellow students. At a scale of 10,000 students, we really need to be each other's keeper. So those are some important things, but what else is important is some of the course logistics. Now, some of you guys may be a little nervous, like, hey, am I ready for a programming class? Am I ready for Stanford's intro programming class? And the answer is probably yes. And in fact, actually, definitely yes. Now, I say this because even though this is a very rigorous class and it builds people up for a foundation from which they can go finish a whole undergraduate program and then a master's program and PhD program, we assume that you come in knowing zero programming. So we like to joke that the prerequisite test is simply that you can recognize if a computer's on. So if you can recognize that this is an on computer, that's all we need. But a little bit more. You guys had to program some Carol to get in here. You're more than qualified. You're more than ready to take on this wonderful challenge of learning to program. So there aren't any real prerequisites. Welcome to the class. We're going to start from zero. We're going to learn quickly, and we're going to build up that foundation of programming. Now, one critical piece of logistics that you've already had to figure out to get here is that we do everything through our course website. So codeandplace.stanford.edu is our course website, and then our course code is CIP3 to represent that this is our third time doing code in place. And that's where you're going to find all the information and all the tools I'm going to talk about. So if there's one most important thing you take away from this is that is our website. Now, of course, that website is probably where you found this video. What are we going to do? Well, the biggest picture is we want you to walk out here with a new skill. And that new skill is we want you to learn how to solve problems using Python. And it's such a joyful thing to learn how to do a new skill. One of the things is we want to make you powerful at programming, but we also want you to see that you are capable of programming so that this can just become the beginning of a wonderful adventure where you go on to learn even more great things. There's a bunch of course components, and you should know what they are. So one of the critical components that makes Code and Play special is this once a week section. So you're going to be in a section, and once a week over 6 weeks, you're going to meet with the same section leader in the same group, and you're going to go over practice problems and get a deeper understanding of the material. It's a critical part of making sure that every one of the 10,000 people can walk out of this class successful. So go to section. It's a great part of Code in Place. And I will actually stress that going to section is something that is both helpful for you, but it's also helpful for your section leader. Imagine the section leader. They volunteered their time. And in fact, every single one of you is in here because there's a section leader who's volunteered, and the slots for students is proportional to how many section leaders joined our team. So every one of you is here because somebody volunteered their time, and they've prepared a lesson and they put some effort into that. So going to this live session is a great way to show them respect for the work that they've done. Now, beyond section, the next most important thing to know is every single week, you're going to have some tasks. So on the very home page of the course website, you're going to see this list of to-dos. And every week, there'll be a small list of to-dos. And that's your main job in Code in Place, is just to make sure you hit all of those milestones. To help you hit those milestones, we're going to teach you. And there's this few different ways that we can teach you. And in fact, as long as you can do the programming, we don't really mind which of these mechanisms is most useful for you. One way you can learn is through lessons like these. We're going to post videos, we'll go over examples, we'll have a good time. But the videos are just one of the ways that you can learn. Another way you can learn is we're going to construct a whole bunch of things that we call worked examples. So you can see programs that we've written and you can learn from them. And by giving you wonderful collections of worked examples, that's another way you can learn. Some people prefer to read. So we're going to have online readings to go along with the class. You've already seen the Carol Robot reader, and so you can follow along that way. And all the contents in that reader, you could learn things completely if you can understand all the different chapters on your own. In addition to the lessons, There's also this thing that we call the forum. And the forum's a place where we can have the conversation amongst all the people in the class. If you have a question for other students, if you want to share something interesting, you can go to the forum and you can make a post, and people in the class will see it. If you make a post that's private, students won't see it, but the hundreds of section leaders and the course staff will be able to see it. So if you have a question just for us, you can ask that. Now, for almost all communication, that forum is the right place to go. There's 10,000 students. Can you imagine if 10,000 people emailed Maron and myself? Oh my God, it would be overwhelming. So if you have a question, that's the right place to go, because then it won't just be Maron and I answering your question. Other students can answer your question. And on that note, I would like to call on you to help out in the class. If you see some other student has a question and you think you might know how something useful to say back, please do participate. This is a class that we're giving to each other. So come to the forum, ask questions, answer questions, share interesting things about your community. It's a wonderful part of this Code in Place experience. So it's a collective community service project, and you are part of this community. So let's help make this work. Let's help make this thrive, and let's help make it that wonderful, uplifting learning environment that we all dream of. I don't really have to say this because people in Code in Place are naturally doing this. We've never had to make a big deal of it, but of course, goes without saying. Show respect to all people at all times in Code in Place. We do have a zero tolerance policy for people not being respectful to each other. We've never had to use it because people have just been fantastic. But do be respectful and do act like you're in public at all times. We should think about this forum as a big public place. So, on that note, one of the things we would strongly recommend you do is do protect your privacy. There's 10,000 people in Code Place. Oh my God, 10,000 wonderful people, but we don't know them personally. They're just 10,000 people who, like you, have shown an aptitude to learn this interesting skill. And like you, are going to be going through the same material at the same time. But beyond that, we don't know these people. So you should treat this like it was anywhere else on the internet. Don't share personal contact information. I would recommend, meeting somebody offline. Treat this like you would any other public place on the internet. And, to that note, we haven't vetted any outside group. We can't vouch for any community. And so, to that extent, we would kindly ask that you don't advertise in the course forum, either well, no one's ever advertised for a product, but a product or for an external group of people meeting. Okay. Hey, this is a cool thing about Code in Place. One thing that you might not know is, in addition to being a wonderful course, it's also a beautiful place for us to try new things. You know, I'm a coder. I love to make things. Like, one of my happy places is when I can just dream up something and I can start building. And after the experience with Code in Place, me and a whole bunch of people who helped create Code in Place were like, oh, we just want to build wonderful tools for the next Code in Place. And so we have been building, and you guys get to enjoy some of those new tools. In fact, you've kind of already enjoyed one of the tools. This IDE that you used in order to do your application is actually a brand new tool, and you're the first people in the world to use it. And on some level, it's not that exciting, but there's this one piece of technology underneath it, which is just a total breakthrough in how we can handle Python online. This is not that important right now, but the Python, when you write it on your computer, historically we'd have to do something very complicated, like send your code to another computer, execute it, and send it back. But we had a big breakthrough in what's possible, which means that we can do wonderful things. We can give you assignments that no one's ever been able to give for Python online before. We can give you access to understanding exactly step by step what a program's done. Like this stepper tool, that's just something that we built with love for you, and you're the first people to get to use it. And we really think it could be a wonderful pedagogical tool. So when you're trying to understand step by step how a program thinks, you've got that. And what's more, this breakthrough in technology also allows us to do something like allow you to share. And we can do all this for really cheap because of the way that it's been engineered. This is just so exciting. We made this, you get to use it for the first time. We hope to give it for free to the world. So let's talk about what you're actually going to learn. So in Code in Place, we do the first half of 106A, but really we cover some of the most essential components of what you need to know if you want to become a programmer. Like we get you through really the foundational material. We start with Carol, which allows us to go right into the sort of complicated control flow and logic of programming without having to teach you a lot of syntax. After you've gotten practice problem solving with the power of computers, then we jump into the world of console programming. And there you have to interact with things like variables. Soon after, you are ready to make interactive graphical programs. So you can make things like interactive games, artwork, all that sort of wonderful stuff. And we don't stop there. The final part of Code in Place is we teach you the data structures that are the underpinnings of things like data science so that you can process large amounts of information. And if you put all those things together, mastery of control flow and mastery of how you can store data in one of the world's most popular languages, you are in such a good path to become an expert programmer. You are going to do a lot of building. So you're going to build things for Carol. Then you're going to build things with console. One of the things you'll build is this thing that we call the Console Academy, where you're going to make a program where other people can learn math. And then, as I mentioned, this new IDE supports us allowing you to build interactive graphical assignments in the web. First time ever. So you'll get to make really cool stuff by the end of this class. One of the beautiful things about programming uh, is that you can make things that you just imagine in your mind. Like I can dream up an idea and I can turn it into reality. And that's such a great thing. And to celebrate that throughout the whole course, we're going to encourage your creativity. So if we give you an assignment and you think of a way to go above and beyond, we always want you to do that. Do something that you think was interesting conceptually, or do something that you just think is beautiful. We love all forms of creativity and we want you to get involved from day one. Now, after the course, though, we're going to have a special time designated for you guys to just work on building your own personal challenge project. So just make something of your own creation. So we're going to get there. You're going to go through a whole bunch of learning experiences that's going to set you up to the point where you can build something that you just dream up yourself. That's the whole idea of where we're going, but the rhythm of how we're going to get there is also very important. Let me tell you what your weeks are going to look like in Code in Place. Code in Place on Monday at 9 a.m. in California, which is where Stanford is, we're going to release all the week's material. So that means the 2 lessons for the week and also all the different assignments that we'd like you to work on for that week. We'll release on Monday, and you don't have to do it on Monday. You have the entire week to complete your tasks. So we'll release on Monday. At your own time, you can do those tasks. Sometime in the week, between Wednesday and Friday, most likely, you will have a section. That's where you meet with your small group and really do try and make it. If you've fallen behind, section's actually that much more useful because it's a great place to catch up and to keep you going forward. So to the extent possible, please do try and make these once a week sections. So after the first week, we'll give you these tasks. You're going to work so hard to do such great learning. You'll help each other out on the forum. And by Sunday of the first week, you'll have completed those tasks. And the next week, we're then going to give you some more videos and the next set of challenges for you to take on. Now, you may finish the tasks early, in which case you could go enjoy the other things that you find interesting. Or you can also always go above and beyond, do something creative, try and be thoughtful about what's possible with the tools we've given you. And then each week's going to have this rhythm. Monday, California time, we give you materials, you have the week to work on it, and then sometime in the week you have your small group meeting with your section. So first week, we'll give you some Carol. The second week, we're going to finish up with Carol and transition to console. Then we're going to teach you all about the art form of dealing with variables before we get into world of graphics and the concepts called listen dictionaries. And every single week, it's not just about watching the videos. It's also about the work that you're doing. So we have these wonderful learning experiences for you guys to work through to master the skills. So what does it mean to be successful? I mean, on some level, this is a class that's for fun. We'll think this is successful if you've learned something that you wouldn't have learned otherwise. If you fall behind, not a worry. We'll leave the material up for you to finish at your own pace. We want you guys all to make it. Do you guys want to know what other things we value? Mara and I have been teaching for a long time, and in that time, we figured out what it is that we really care about in teaching programming. One thing that we really care about is teaching you not just programming, but the what we call the art of computer science. It turns out when you're learning this new skill, it's not just can you make things work, but it's can you write things in such an elegant way that they will become a foundation upon which other programs could be built. Because we've recognized that this art of how to program, not just making things work, but how to do it in a stylistic way, is one of the key things that can unlock the ability for you to grow to the next level of programmer. We believe in learning by doing. So as much as possible, we want you guys to be programming because when you're doing the programming, that's when you guys are going to be learning the most. We really believe in being humane to each other. Mara and I do this for free because we like to give to others. We like to see people enjoying the process of learning, and we like to see you being kind to each other. Think about our origin story, right? We started as a gift to one another in a trying time. And even though we're past COVID, maybe we can keep that most quintessential concept. So let's just be wonderful to each other like we've always been. I'm so appreciative of you guys. Like you guys are doing the most work here. Learning how to program, that's the most difficult thing. I've been teaching for a long time, but you guys are going to be mastering a whole new skill and putting a lot of time into it. And I'm really appreciative that you're doing that both for yourselves, but also your learning brings joys to the teachers who get to be part of that path. So I'm thankful to you and that gratitude that we feel towards each other, that is one of the things that we deeply value. Another thing is welcoming. Kind of makes sense. We have a class for people from all around the world of all different walks of life. Welcoming is something that we really believe. You are welcome in this class. Come join. We're going to have a good time. You and every other student that's at this class. Okay, now that talks about a lot of the logistics, and it's time to get a little bit excited about what you can do. We're going to start small, of course, because we assume you have no prior knowledge, but programming is a really expansive subject, and I want to give you a taste for what are some of the programs you could write one day. So at some point, I worked at this wonderful company called Pixar, and I wasn't making movies and I wasn't writing stories. I was actually writing code because things like games or movies, a lot of what you see, there's a bunch of programmers who are making it happen. From how do you render something in 3 dimensions to how do you animate, there's programs going behind all sorts of modern art that you might care to participate in. People make many consumer applications like this computer you're using through programming. And we're going to tell you lots of stories, big and small, of things that people have done. Like, for example, this is Bright Simmons. He's a programmer who was working on the problem of how to prevent counterfeit medication. And he wrote a consumer application using programming that had a huge impact on how people could fake drugs. What a cool story. So you could write a program like that too. Oh my God, the innovations are over the place. Like people making robotics. As you know, robots are run by programs. We're starting to see in California a lot more cars without people driving them. And those self-driving cars, somebody is programming them to do what they're supposed to do. Now, we would like to get you to the point where you could write a self-driving car, but we're not there yet. This is just the start of the journey that can get you to all these wonderful skills. We've seen tens of thousands of people go down this path and learn to program. We've seen people go through Code in Place and find their way into programming jobs. And we've seen how this can be just the start of many, many different paths. So we can see that it's gone to all these wonderful ends, but we also appreciate that this is hard. It's difficult to learn how to code. You guys are going to be making your minds work in ways it's never worked before, and that's going to take some effort. So just respect to you for putting in all that effort. If you find it hard, that's natural and that's normal. Our Stanford students find it hard. Our Code in Place students find it hard. Anything we're doing can sometimes be hard, which is why we're going to start with Carol.